Mom would play Bubble Plaza with me and buy me skins. When I was 7, Mom told me we were going to play a game. Mia, when Mom leaves, as long as you don't cry or throw a tantrum, I'll get you the Cloud Dragon mount tonight. The Cloud Dragon mount required accumulating hundreds of dollars in recharges to redeem. I jumped up, clapping my hands, and agreed. That day, I got the Cloud Dragon mount, but Mom disappeared. Everyone said she went to have a baby brother and didn't want me anymore. But I remembered she was sick. Later on, because Mom hadn't logged in for so long, her game account turned into an AFK character standing in the plaza. Only, when I got close to it, why did it seem to move? Just because I once said, "That person's skin is so pretty, I'm so jealous." Mom bought me several limited edition skins. Whenever I was with Mom, I was always giggling. Grandma used to tease, "Your mom has barely taken care of you for a few days, yet you're so clingy with her. She really is your biological mother." Mom would bring me to her place to play once a month. Her apartments would change, sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes far away, and sometimes close by. "Mia," Mom would say, "when I have some money, I'll rent a place right near your school, and then we can be together every day." Whenever we were together, she never asked about my schoolwork. Even if I got an F in math, she would just laugh out loud and say, "I bet there's someone else in your class who turned in a blank test, right?" She always knew exactly what I wanted to hear. Then she would rub my head and add, "You're doing great, Mia." To score 13 points at an age when kids can't even spell their own names is impressive. Some of my classmates had really long names, constantly spelled them wrong, and ended up crying out of frustration. But I was different. Mom said she named me Mia when I was born just to save me that kind of trouble. Just 3 letters, MIA. So, I was the first kid in my class who knew how to spell their own name. Today was another day at Mom's place, and as usual, we were going to do 3 things: drink boba, play games, and order takeout. Before launching the game, she ordered 2 cups of boba on her phone, just like always. Still too lazy to go herself, she asked me to cross the street and pick them up. "Why don't you just get it delivered?" I asked. "Delivery means paying extra for a tip," she replied. I pretended to sigh and act annoyed, but inside I was thrilled. Because I was getting boba. I put on my shoes and headed out. On the way to pick up the drinks, I walked very slowly because I knew Mom was secretly filming me from upstairs. The very first time I went to get boba, she stood by the window and recorded a video of me crossing the street. Ever since I caught her doing that, I made sure to walk at a snail's pace, looking left and right to confirm there were absolutely no cars before crossing. I knew that when I got back, she would pull out the video she had just taken, hold me in her arms, and watch it with me. Then she would praise me, saying, "You did so well, baby. You even knew to follow the crowd when there were a lot of cars. I can't believe you managed to carry 2 cups of boba all by yourself." She would shower me with compliments while I giggled endlessly. Even after getting the boba, we couldn't start gaming right away. She had to text her friends to brag. "I just sent my daughter to get boba for me, and she even looks both ways before crossing the street." Ha ha ha. Her friends were always worried, asking, "You let her cross the street by herself at 6 or 7 years old." But Mom didn't care. She's not that little anymore. Kids are smart. If you don't let her try, how will she ever learn? By the time she finished chatting with her friends, it was already evening. She would play Bubble Plaza with me, and even though I just wandered around following her in the game, she never found it boring. If trolls came over and knocked us down, Mom would grab a foam bat item and chase them across the entire map. She'd yell, "How dare you hit my daughter? Pew pew pew. Taste the power of my foam bat." Truth be told, Mom was terrible at the game. She never managed to catch anyone. Instead, they would toy with her, beating her up until her character tumbled across the map several times. But she would always pretend she had successfully avenged me, and I never burst her bubble. I happily carried the boba back home. When I handed it to Mom, she just gave me a long, deep look, sighed, and said, "I'm going to take a nap. Wake me up if you get hungry, and I'll order you some fries." I nodded. "Okay, Mom." I sat obediently on the bed, leaning against the headboard, and took out my phone. Without Mom playing with me today, I felt a bit down, and the game didn't seem as fun anymore. After all, It would be a long time before we could spend another whole day gaming together. In the game plaza, annoying players came over to hit me again. I chased one around and knocked him flying several times. I wanted to tell Mom to make her happy. But looking at her sleeping soundly and hearing her soft snores, I didn't dare wake her. I turned the game volume down and pulled the blanket up a little higher. By nightfall, my stomach was rumbling. But Mom still hadn't woken up. I had to rummage around the living room, eventually finding a bag of marshmallows, and fell asleep while eating them. Before drifting off, I groggily wondered why I was so hesitant. In the past, when Mom was asleep, I would confidently crawl on top of her, act spoiled, and nuzzle her awake. Why didn't I dare do that today? Was it because she seemed different from before? Or was I afraid that if I asked for too much, she wouldn't like me anymore? A day at Mom's place always flew by, so fast it made me want to cry. It was time to go back to Grandma's house again. Seeing her again would mean waiting another month. I didn't really understand what a month meant. I only knew it would be a very, very long time before I could see Mom again. Every time it was time to head back to Grandma's, I would forget the promise I had made to Mom the day before. Mia, we're going to Mom's place soon. But you have to promise me something. When I drop you back off tomorrow, you can't cry, okay? I would always say, okay. But the moment we arrived back at Grandma's, I would make up excuses to stay in the car. Mom always spent a long time coaxing me, bribing me with supermarket snacks, and distracting me by offering to buy me in-game skins. Only then would I sniffle and finally agree to get out. But I didn't really want snacks or skins. I just knew that no matter how hard I cried, Mom was always going to leave. Even if she didn't leave immediately, she would sneak away while I was distracted watching cartoons. There were times I would pretend to watch the TV, but I was actually keeping my ears trained on her. The moment the sound of Mom and Grandma talking stopped, I would abruptly jump up and run after her. I would chase Mom, Grandma would chase me, and it would end with me crying as Grandma pulled me into her arms. When I was crying so hard I could barely breathe, I could always see the store owner down the street standing at his door laughing, and the neighbors sitting on their porches laughing too. Grandma would hold me tight and look at the neighbors, a smile on her face as well. Her mom barely raised her, yet now that she's older, she's still so close to her. Truly a blood connection. The neighborhood ladies would chime in. A child this young naturally needs her mother. If all the adults knew that, then why were they still holding me back? Why didn't they just say, the kid is crying this hard, tell her mom to come back? Why couldn't Mom, Grandma, and I just live together? I loved Grandma, but I miss Mom too. If the house was too small, I could just sleep on the floor. Ding. The elevator door slid open, pulling me out of my thoughts. Out walked a boy who looked about my age. His dad was carrying a bicycle on his shoulder, and his mom was holding a bag stuffed with water bottles, snacks, and bread. The little boy skipped out of the elevator and whined playfully, Mom, Dad, I want to go camping again next week. Laughing together, they stepped out and unlocked the door right next to Mom's apartment. So the scooter and toys left out in the hallway belonged to him. I tugged at Mom's sleeve. Mom, why doesn't that boy have to go back to his grandma's house? Mom pulled her eyes away from her phone screen and looked down at me. I lowered my head and mumbled, why does he get to live with his mom every day? Mom replied flatly, they have money. They own a house. But Mom, you have money too. You've bought me several skins and spent hundreds of dollars already. She crouched down and stroked my head. Because that's all Mom can afford to give you. I won't pressure you about your grades. Whatever you like, if I can do it, I will. I like you, Mom. I want to live with you and Grandma. I looked at her with hopeful eyes. She sighed. That's too hard, baby. Mom tried, but I just can't do it. Besides, Mom has the kind of life she wants to live, too. I tilted my head, not understanding what she meant. Maybe seeing the disappointment on my face, she put on a smile and ruffled my hair. All right, Mom promises Mia she will work hard to make money and either rent or buy a house near your school so we can all live together as a family, okay? I smiled and nodded. Okay. I believed with all my heart she could do it. Because back when I first started playing Bubble Plaza, I saw other players with cool skins. I followed one guy around, turned on my mic, and yelled, your skin looks so nice. I'm so jealous. Mom heard me and rushed over to mute my mic. She scolded me. Can you have a little pride? That's just a free skin from the beginner's pack. What's there to be jealous of? Don't ever talk to people like that again. If you want mom to buy something for you, just ask. From that day on, I thought my mom was the coolest. Those out of reach, beautiful skins could be mine with just a payment from the account she had linked. Whenever she had some spare money, she would get me limited edition skins, and by now I already had quite a few flashy ones. On the way back to Grandma's, Mom was much more talkative than usual. Mia, here's a video of you when you were little. I'm sending it to your phone. Mia, look at this picture of us. Mia, look at all the yogurt smeared on your mouth. Haha, I'll send you this video too. Look at this one. You were crying so hard your nose was running. I leaned my head on Mom's shoulder, giggling as I watched the 2 or 3-year-old version of myself. My childhood was so funny, I exclaimed. Mom pinched my cheek. Silly girl, you're still in your childhood right now. As we were laughing, I casually glanced over at Mom, and it looked like she was about to cry. In the car, Mom took a bunch of selfies with me and sent every single one to my phone. Mia, you hit favorite so they save on your phone. You must remember your account password. Even if your phone breaks, as long as you log in, your videos and photos will still be there in iCloud. I studied her instructions carefully, catching on quickly, just like when she first taught me how to chat on the phone. But just as I was getting the hang of it, she stopped teaching me. Forget it. If you can't learn it, that's fine too. Maybe it's better not to look at them anyway. Mom was acting so strange today. We arrived at Grandma's house in no time, but I still refused to get out of the car. Mom leaned in close to my ear. Mia, did you forget what you promised Mom yesterday? If you break your word, I'm not picking you up to stay at my place next time. I looked down, fiddling with my fingers, determined to be stubborn. After all, she always said that, but she still came to pick me up anyway. What was the harm in throwing a little tantrum? Maybe one day she would tell me she wasn't leaving and would just sleep on the floor with me. Seeing me stay quiet, Mom expertly scooped me out of the car like she had done 100 times before and carried me into the corner store down the street. The owner saw me and said, "The little crybaby is back." I stood by the door, pouting. Mom went in, grabbed some gummy candies, potato chips and lollipops, paid, and then took my hand to walk down the block. I leaned my weight back. For every step she dragged me, I barely moved an inch. She was panting from the effort. Mia, be good. Walk by yourself. I have a surprise for you when we get inside, an absolute surprise. Mom has never lied to you, right? I nodded stubbornly and finally started walking. It was very strange. Today, Mom didn't turn on a cartoon to distract me so she could sneak away. She didn't strike up a conversation with Grandma, either. Instead, she sat in a chair with me on her lap, gently rocking me back and forth. She didn't seem to want to leave. I leaned against her chest, playing with her hair, and mumbled, "Mom, what's the surprise you were talking about?" I heard her swallow hard right by my ear, and I turned to look at her. She paused. "When Mom leaves, if you don't cry or throw a fit, I'll get you the Cloud Dragon mount." My eyes lit up. The Cloud Dragon mount. The one that floats in the air and flies all around the center of Bubble Plaza. You could even invite other players in the plaza to ride it with you. But it required accumulating hundreds of dollars in top-ups to redeem, and Mom had always said it was too expensive. "Mom, why can't I cry or throw a fit?" She hugged me tighter. "Because it would make it too hard for Mom to leave." "It's hard for me when you leave too. So why don't you just stay?" I remembered renting an apartment cost a lot of money too. After struggling with the thought for a long time, I gritted my teeth and looked at her. "Mom, since you have so much money, why don't you just rent a house near my school?" She smiled faintly. "A few $100s can only cover rent for a few months, but the Cloud Dragon mount you love is permanent." I was sold. I jumped up, clapping my hands and saying yes, then threw my arms around her neck, pecking her cheeks like a woodpecker. She laughed out loud, though it looked like a teardrop was hanging from the corner of her eye. But as a kid, how could I actually keep my word? One second I was thrilled, and the next, when Mom actually got up to leave, my eyes welled up with tears. She kissed my forehead. I stood by the door, tugging at her sleeve, fighting back my sobs. "Mia, Mom just raised the limit on the account, so you can go ahead and recharge it yourself." Take your time spending the game coins. If you see skins you like, just buy them directly. After she finished speaking, she gently tried to pry my hands away, urging me to go back inside. I held on tight, even though I knew that if I turned around and pulled out my phone right then, I would have the cloud dragon mount. Even though it was supposed to be a happy thing, I just didn't want to let go. Seeing my stubbornness, Mom's expression grew a little sterner. Mia, no breaking promises. It was the first time she had been so serious. Reluctantly, I loosened my grip. Standing next to Grandma, I watched Mom get into the car. Once the door closed, she didn't roll down the window to say goodbye before the car drove off. The red glow of the taillights faded into the night-shrouded streets. I kept sniffling, tears brimming in my eyes, as I heard the store owner's surprised voice. Wow, Mia didn't cry, scream, or chase after the car today. Someone else chimed in. She's growing up. She can't cry every single time. She's only 7. How grown up can she be? Kids mature early these days. I clenched my fists, turned around, and ran back inside Grandma's house. I pulled out my phone and, wiping away my tears with the back of my arm, claimed the Cloud Dragon mount and opened the game. Everything would be fine once I got online. Mom would log in to play with me too. She would talk to me, just like she was right beside me. I activated the Cloud Dragon mount, hovering and moving around the center of the plaza, and a ton of players swarmed over. They circled my mount, jumping up and down, begging for invitations. Everyone wanted a ride. Mid-cry, a smile broke through. I hurriedly opened my phone and sent Mom a voice message. Mom, log on quickly. I want you to be the very first person to ride it. I waited until very late, but Mom didn't text back, nor did she log on. Late that night, I was jolted awake by the sound of Grandma yelling. I quietly slipped out of bed and cracked my door open. Grandma was clutching her phone, her hands shaking. Grandma's phone volume was always loud, and she always used the speakerphone. She was on a call with Mom. You already have Mia. What do you need to get married for? You're just going to run off with that man? What about Mia? Mom replied, Mom, I'm still young. I need emotional support too. I love Mia. But the thought of the rest of my life being a dead end like this is suffocating. He treats me very well, and he's never been married. When I make some money and get on my feet, I'll come back. Furious, Grandma paced back and forth in the tiny kitchen. He treats you well? Would a man who treats you well let you abandon Mia? Why would he want a divorced woman with a kid anyway? Mom, he will absolutely accept her. I just haven't readied myself to tell him yet. Grandma took a deep breath. Fine, go if you want, but take Mia with you. I'm washing my hands of this. I knew Grandma was bluffing. Once, when I threw a tantrum wanting to go to Mom's place, Mom had said she was too busy and would come next month. But when Grandma used this exact trick, Mom came back to pick me up the very next day. Just as I was excitedly waiting to hear Mom say, I'll be back tomorrow, she spoke up from the other end of the line. Mom, I'm having a boy. I'm already over 3 months along. It's too late to get rid of it now. It would ruin my health. I want to have this baby. When he grows up, he can protect Mia and have her back. Grandma took a step backward, bracing herself against the kitchen counter. Mom was crying over the phone. She was pleading with Grandma. Grandma was Mom's mother too, so of course her heart broke for her. Why else would she have drained her savings to raise me on Mom's behalf? After a long silence, Grandma finally spoke, her voice slow and heavy. If her own mother leaves, how can anyone expect the child in your belly to grow up and protect Mia? I told you not to choose Mia's father back then, and you didn't listen. You're not going to listen to me now either. Forget it. I won't get involved in your business anymore. Not that I even could. I'll just focus on taking care of Mia. Grandma hung up the phone and hid in the kitchen, crying softly. Without me even realizing it, a warm trail slid down my cheek. I raised my hand and wiped it away. How was I crying without even knowing it? I gently shut the door and crawled back under the covers. This wasn't right. I clearly remembered Mom hiding in the bathroom the night before, making a phone call. She was obviously sick, really sick, and needed medical treatment. How could she be getting married now? But then I thought of Mom's slightly bulging belly. It really wasn't just weight gain. There was a little brother growing inside her. Mom had said that day she had a life she wanted to live, and I guess getting married to that uncle was it. Would they go camping and live together every day, just like the family next door to her apartment? Yeah, they definitely would, because the baby brother would have both a dad and a mom. I shook my head vigorously. Then I'd choose the second explanation. If it was true that Mom was getting married, then her being sick had to be a lie. That meant Mom wouldn't need shots or medicine, and we would still have a chance to see each other again. For a while after Mom left me, Grandma constantly muttered, "God knows what she's doing out there. You never see her face, you never see her money. Even if she's broke, would it kill her to come back and take one look? If you all don't care, then neither do I. Let whoever wants to deal with it deal with it." Though Grandma always talked like that, she spent every dime of her savings on me. 2 months passed, and Mom still hadn't returned. I was starting to get genuinely angry. I rushed home from school, sped through my homework, and grabbed my phone. Mom hadn't replied to any of my previous messages. Angrily, I sent her a voice memo. "Mom, if you don't message me back right now, I'm going to delete you." A few more days went by. I logged into the game, tapped on my friends list, and Mom's account was still offline. Fuming, I messaged her again. "Mom, if you don't reply, I'm going to delete our in-game pet." Mom used to tell me constantly not to click randomly, so I wouldn't accidentally delete the pet. She had saved up and grinded through tasks for ages to get it. From the time I was 5 until I was 7, she had spent 2 whole years doing daily missions to slowly raise that pet for me. But this time, my threat didn't scare her, and she still didn't reply. Maybe because of the baby in her belly, she just didn't have time to check her phone? Then I guess I would just wait a little longer. For a very long time after that, I would log onto the game whenever I had free time. Wearing the skins Mom had bought me, I would stand in the plaza and zone out. I kept feeling like at any second, a notification would pop up at the top of the screen saying Mom had come online. As I stood there spacing out, my in-game friends would gather around me. Some were my age, and some were a few years older. They were all amazed. "That's awesome. Your mom actually got you the Cloud Dragon mount. Can we take a ride?" I told them, "I want my mom to be the first to ride it. Once she takes a turn, you guys can ride it." Just like me, they all hoped my mom would log in soon. Every day, they kept me company in the plaza, waiting for their chance to ride the Cloud Dragon. I waited from the first half of first grade all the way into the second half, and the number of people waiting with me in the plaza began to dwindle. They would ride the mounts their own parents bought them and do circles around me. A few persistent ones stuck around to keep waiting with me. But by the time I was in second grade, even they stopped keeping me company. "Your mom isn't coming back. I don't really like this game anymore, so I can't hang out with you here. Mia, it was great meeting you. I hope you get to see your mom. Mia, I'm starting middle school soon, so I have to grind my studies. I won't be logging on anymore." Some even got angry with me. "Your mom doesn't want you anymore. What are you still waiting for? It's been so long, and you still won't let us ride. Do you even have a mom?" In the past, I would bicker with them. "You're the one without a mom. My mom plays games with me every single day." What kind of mom plays games with her daughter? My mom says parents who really love their kids make them study. You're either making it up, or you just don't have a mom. Blay. This time, I didn't fight back. I was starting to feel like Mom really didn't want me anymore. I stared at the chat history, all the voice memos, and the text messages I painstakingly typed out one by one once I learned how. She hadn't responded to a single one. If it weren't for the photos she had sent me, I would have almost forgotten what she looked like. I was becoming more and more convinced that the neighbor's comment, "Your mom had a baby brother and doesn't want you anymore," wasn't just a joke. The thought made me so furious I fired off another message. "Why didn't you just ignore me from the very beginning, like Dad did? Why are you ignoring me now? Why, Mom?" After typing it, I raised my finger, wanting to delete her contact info and remove her from my game friends list. But I pathetically stopped my fingertip in midair. Maybe she would log on tomorrow. Maybe she would tell me, "Baby, Mom saved up enough money. I can rent a place near your school now. We can finally live together." She definitely would, because Mom had never lied to me. In the blink of an eye, it was Christmas break again, and I was already in the 3rd grade. While visiting relatives for a holiday gathering, I did the same thing I did every year. Pulled out my phone, opened the game, and checked to see if Mom was online. Seeing me do this, a relative scoffed. Who knows what Mia's mom was thinking, giving her a smartphone at that age. She was broke herself, but still bought the kid in-game skins. It's bad enough she's a mess, but she had to ruin the kid too. Grandma forced an awkward smile. It's the holidays, let's not talk about her. She hasn't shown her face in years. Every single year, they brought up the fact that Mom bought me a phone and spent money on games. Back then, Mom couldn't stand their comments and would snap right back. So, what if I put money in her game? Ever since I started buying my daughter skins, her math grade went from 13 to a perfect 100. I didn't even have to tutor her. When I was in elementary school, my teachers gave me extra help and I still couldn't score 100. Your son didn't exactly score perfect hundreds when he was little, either. Mia tells me that every time she wants a skin, she calculates exactly how much money is missing. Whenever I give her the money, she calculates exactly how much will be left over after buying it. Pretty smart, huh? Ha ha ha. Mom would brag about it every time, completely ignoring the disdainful looks on our relatives' faces. Remembering that, I looked down and smiled to myself like a fool. Seeing my smile, the relative piped up again. You can still laugh, but we're telling you this for your own good. You need to play fewer games. What does it matter? I shot back. I passed the placement test and skipped straight to 6th grade. The relative looked at Grandma for confirmation, wanting to know if it was true. Grandma smiled and nodded. The relative took a sip from his glass, his eyes darting back and forth shiftily. That's great news. Why didn't you let us know? Before Grandma could answer, I cut in. Because I told Grandma not to throw a party and expect everyone to bring gifts over every little thing. That specific relative loved throwing parties for absolutely any minor event in his family, subtly hinting that everyone should bring a gift. As soon as the words left my mouth, a few other relatives who had long been annoyed by his behavior quickly chimed in their agreement. Watching him look down and focus entirely on his food, I felt incredibly smug. Don't think that just because Mom isn't here you can bully Grandma. You still have to deal with me. They stopped lecturing me, and my eyes drifted back to my phone. Just as I was about to close the game, a familiar login notification caught my eye. It was Mom. I immediately tried to teleport to her location in the game, but it kept showing an error. I logged out and logged back in repeatedly, but nothing changed. I did a quick search, and the result crushed my hopes. Accounts that are inactive for a long time will enter an AFK state until the player actively logs back in. Mom's account had already turned into an AFK character. My heart sank heavily once again. This feeling was far too familiar. It was exactly like the dream I kept having. In the dream, Mom came back. She sent me out to get boba and ordered me fries. In the game, she let me follow her as we ran wildly around the plaza. Every time I woke up and realized it was just a dream, I would be quiet and withdrawn for days until I finally recovered. Once I got home, I tossed and turned, completely unable to sleep. I opened my phone, logged into the game, and saw Mom's AFK account was still online. Since I couldn't teleport to her, I would just search the servers manually one by one. Even just looking at her character would be enough. After loading in, I did a lap around the plaza. When I couldn't find her, I would log out and log back in, which forced the system to automatically place me in a different server. I logged out and in, over and over again. Finally, I spotted that red character. Mom's AFK avatar was standing right in the middle of the plaza. When Mom first created her character, she chose the color red. Not many people picked that color. I thought it was tacky, too. Mom had said she did it because it stood out, so I would be able to spot her instantly. I sprinted over to her side. Since she was standing still, I used the mechanics to drag her character with me, running freely all over the plaza. I was smiling, truly happy. I showed her all the new sites that had been added and updates she hadn't seen yet. I dragged her with me, jumping onto the giant piano keys. Just like she had taught me before, I tapped out, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." I also played her favorite song, "You Are My Sunshine." After taking her on a grand tour, I got tired, so I brought her up to the Ferris wheel. I placed her in a seat and sat directly across from her. The in-game Ferris wheel turned round and round until sleep finally overtook me, and I drifted off. From then on, whenever I was doing my homework, I would locate Mom in the plaza and just leave my phone running beside me. Whenever I needed a break, I would glance at her on the screen. I watched her while I ate my meals, too. Another month went by just like that. On the weekend, I was resting my head on my desk, spacing out while staring at the red character as I stood guard next to her. Suddenly, some troll charged over and knocked Mom flying. With so many AFK players in the plaza, he had to target her specifically. He even muttered, "Red is so ugly." I immediately sat up straight, ran over, and dragged Mom away to safety. I managed to pull her up onto one of the clouds floating off to the side of the plaza. This spot was usually a real pain to jump up to, so it was very safe. Once she was secure, I hopped back down, grabbed a foam bat, and scoured the entire map for the guy who hit her. When I found him, I chased him around the plaza 3 times and knocked him flying over and over. Only when he begged, I'm sorry, stop following me, I promise I won't hit AFK players anymore," did I finally let him off the hook. After taking care of him, I ran back up the cloud to find Mom. When she saw me, she shuffled slightly to the side. Why did it look like she just moved? Wasn't this an AFK account? I rubbed my eyes. The very next second, Mom jumped straight down from the cloud into the plaza below. She was actually moving. I quickly chased after her, and she stopped right where she landed. I yanked open the chat box and quickly typed out the word, "Mom." My hands were shaking so much I messed it up a few times before getting it right. Mom just stood there without moving, so I turned on my voice chat. I ran circles around her, my voice trembling as I spoke. Mom, is it you? If it is, can you just move a little?" Mom's character jumped. She could actually hear me. "Mom, where are you? Was the baby born? Are you cured of your sickness? Can you come back and see me? Just one look. I promise I won't cry or throw a tantrum. I mean it this time, I won't break my word." I fired off so many questions, but Mom gave no response. Disheartened, I stood next to her until nightfall. For a split second, I wondered if the whole thing had just been a hallucination. At 9 o'clock, my Cloud Dragon mount kept automatically sending her ride invitations. When she didn't accept, I just kept manually clicking the button. I mumbled into my phone, "Mom, before you bought me the Cloud Dragon, whenever we saw someone else with one, you would take me and we'd run right behind them. We'd beg for an invite over and over, but they never let us ride. You said that when you had money, you'd buy one for me, and then you'd sit on mine and let me fly you all over the plaza. Now we don't have to chase anyone anymore. Because I wanted you to ride it first, my Cloud Dragon has never had a single passenger. Mom, where on earth did you go?" As I talked, I began to cry, weeping so hard I couldn't see the screen clearly anymore. My finger hit the invite button harder and harder. Invitation accepted. The words popped up in the center of the screen. My Cloud Dragon slowly lifted into the air, and sitting right in the passenger seat was that red character. As if afraid she might run away, I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Hold on tight, Mom. We're taking off." I rapidly swiped the directional pad, flying Mom to every single corner of the plaza. We circled the plaza over and over again. Just as we were getting ready to land, a line of text appeared above Mom's avatar. It was a message from her, "I love you." A split second later, Mom vanished from the seat. The friends list showed she was offline. I strained my neck, my voice hoarse as I wailed, "Mom." I knew in my heart that was the last time she would ever speak to me. Hearing the commotion, Grandma burst into my room. Seeing me completely losing control, she pressed my head into her chest, patting my back and telling me not to cry. "Mia, be good. Grandma is here." I sobbed uncontrollably. It was the very first time I had cried out loud since Mom left. Whenever I missed her, I only ever hid and cried in secret. Because whenever I brought Mom up, Grandma would lose her temper. She would yell at me and throw things around the house. Thinking of that, I looked up at Grandma through my tears. "Grandma, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to miss her." Grandma stroked my back, her voice choked with emotion. "If you miss her, you miss her. It's okay." I sniffled, only to notice that her clouded eyes were shimmering with tears, a single droplet caught in the wrinkles by her eye. Grandma was getting old, and aging so fast. The next day after school, I saw an unfamiliar man holding the hand of a little boy, standing outside Grandma's door. The little boy had deep double eyelids, just like Mom. I studied the man. In his arms, he held a box wrapped in cloth. When he saw me, he spoke politely. Are you Mia Reeves? I nodded warily. Mia, who are you talking to? Grandma opened the door, squinting at the man outside before her gaze flicked over to the little boy. Finally, her eyes landed on the box, and she said flatly, come in. The man walked in and placed the box on the dining table. Grandma never once took her eyes off it. He said quietly, I brought Wendy back. Grandma looked at him. Then where is Wendy? He looked down at the box and Grandma's gaze followed his. Her lips began to tremble uncontrollably before she slammed her hand on the table and screamed at him. Get out. Get the hell out of my house. She didn't come back. She hasn't been back for a long time. She's not coming back. She's out there eating, drinking, and having fun while I'm stuck at home raising her kid. She's living so comfortably. Why would she ever come back? Grandma started shoving him toward the door. The little boy was so terrified he started wailing, running over to me and holding out his arms to be picked up. I caught him by reflex. He was so soft, leaning against my shoulder and crying while mumbling, Mom is back. I panicked, my mind going completely blank. The man was shoved out the door, and Grandma spun back around, trying to rip the child out of my arms. The man shouted from the doorway, she's back. That's her ashes on the table. Grandma's hands froze. The little boy's crying grew louder, making my head spin. Mom was dead. The man explained that Mom had suffered from postpartum depression right after I was born. That was why she asked my dad for a divorce. She was the only one who knew how sick she truly was. I was just a baby then, and Grandma was already getting old. Mom had tried to give up on everything, abandoning Grandma, abandoning me, just wanting to exist in peace and quiet. She missed me, but she couldn't handle the noise and chaos of a child either. When I was 5, she was diagnosed with early-stage cancer. Still battling her postpartum depression, she felt that making it to that age was enough. But when she got a call from my school saying I was being bullied, she cried all night. The next day, she went to the school and stood up for me. From that day on, she wanted to live. She started receiving treatment. She was simultaneously fighting 2 battles, the illness in her mind and the illness in her body. But cancer treatments were extremely expensive. Later, she met this man. He treated her very well and was generous with his money. Even knowing she had cancer, he proposed to her. Mom couldn't bear to lose the baby inside her, and she couldn't bear to let me go, either. She figured that if she got married, her financial burden would lighten, and she could continue her treatments. So she married him, but she never dared mention my existence. She was terrified that if he left her, she wouldn't have the money to keep treating her illness. They didn't have a wedding, using her difficult pregnancy as an excuse. But living together every single day, secrets always slip out. One day, when she was secretly looking at a photo of me, her husband saw it. By that time, her cancer was already in its terminal stage. He offered to bring me to live with them, but Mom refused. After he finished his story, the house fell dead silent. Grandma simply stood up and slowly walked into her room. A moment later, the sound of muffled wailing drifted out. I was usually the biggest crybaby, but hearing all this, I didn't shed a tear. Instead, I looked at him and asked, why did Mom refuse to let you bring me home? He answered slowly, she told me she had asked you once. If one day Mom disappeared, would you rather she ran off with someone else, or that she died? You told her you'd rather she ran off with someone else. The memory pierced through my brain like a sharp knife. The scene flashed before my eyes, Mom holding me in her arms and asking me that question. My answer had been, I'd rather you ran away with someone else than die, because if you die, there's nothing left and I'll cry. The day her game account moved was the last day of her life. She had missed me so much that she risked making me cry just to log on and find me one last time. He patted my shoulder. Wendy said that if she died, she didn't want me to tell you, but if she survived, we were going to bring you home. Your mom was so brave during her chemotherapy. She always said you'd take after her. So I thought about it for a long time and decided to tell you, so you could walk her through her final journey. A few days later, it was the day of Mom's funeral. My little brother was very attached to me, holding my hand everywhere we went, just like how I used to cling to Mom. Even though she had never truly raised me, I was deeply bonded to her. It was the same for him. He had never met me before, yet he loved clinging to me. A lot of people showed up for the burial that day. Even my dad, whom I had only met once, was there, standing beside me with his head bowed and eyes red. I watched as Mom's box was placed into the freshly dug hole, and the dirt was filled in. Someone began to weep softly. I was the one who picked the photo for her tombstone. She looked so beautiful, so young. Whenever I would comment on how thin my classmates' moms were, Mom would pull out old photos of herself to show me. She would tell me she used to be the prettiest girl in her class, and that she only gained weight because she had me, but that she was going to lose it. If I had known she was sick, I never would have praised anyone else. Because the truth was, Mom was always beautiful to me. The sound of hushed crying spread through the crowd as more and more people arrived. I heard relatives whispering, "It's a good thing Mia is so young. She doesn't really understand. Still, it's so pitiful. She hasn't cried at all. I guess she doesn't have any feelings left for her mother, considering they haven't seen each other in years." Yeah, kids forget quickly. They had no idea that I hadn't forgotten Mom for a single day. Even when I was studying hard, I always made time to log on and wait for her. I wasn't that little anymore. I was almost in the 4th grade. It wasn't that I didn't want to cry. I had simply, in an instant, understood what it meant to have a sorrow so deep it produces no tears. When I thought Mom was still alive, I could cry. In my mind, I knew that whenever I cried, even if she wouldn't stay, she would agree to give me anything else I wanted. Now, crying was useless. The service ended, and the crowd dispersed. Grandma hadn't come today. She said she just couldn't handle it, couldn't bear to see her off. I knew it wasn't that she didn't want to be there. It was that she would have completely broken down if she came. My stepdad walked ahead, holding my brother's hand. I trailed behind them, with my dad following me. Just as I was about to get into my stepdad's car, my dad ran up and grabbed me. "Mia, I haven't seen you in so long. Keep your dad company for a bit." Without waiting for my permission, he picked me up and put me in his car. I didn't put up a fight, letting the adults manipulate me as they wished. The very first time I met my dad, I was 5 years old. That day, Mom had taken me to a crowded place, where she signed some papers with a man called Dad. I took Mom's last name, changing from Cole to Reeves. Mom had told me that from then on, I belonged to her family. We would be together forever. After the car door closed, the woman sitting in the passenger seat turned around and smiled at me, telling me how cute I was. They bombarded me with questions. How old I was, how my grades were, if anyone picked on me. Finally, he got to the point. "Mia, your mom is gone, and your grandma is getting older. How about you come live with Dad?" His car was huge. The heater blasted hot air against my cheeks. The interior smelled so heavily of cologne it was almost dizzying. I looked at him and blurted out, "Dad, is this the $40,000 car?" His face instantly went cold. "Did your mother tell you that?" I stared down at the tips of my shoes and shook my head. The neighbors heard it when Grandma was yelling at Mom for not listening to her back in the day. The neighbors always talked about how, when I was sick and dying, you chose the car instead of me. They said you could have saved me if you sold the car, but you told Mom I was a bottomless money pit and that she should just have another baby. That's why Mom divorced you. She didn't have the money to save me, but she knew Grandma knew people she could borrow from. So she waited until I was all better before coming to see me. The woman in the passenger seat glared at my dad. My dad looked dazed, turning his head away to stare out the window. After a long moment, his voice came out raspy. "Come home with me. I'll take good care of you. I'll love you." The woman turned back to me and nodded. She seemed to genuinely welcome me. They looked at me expectantly, but I gently shook my head. "I was never your first choice to begin with, and I won't be from now on either. I'm not going home with you." With that, I opened the car door. My dad jumped out after me, his eyes rimmed with red, and blocked my path. "Mia, I made a mistake." I pulled my arm from his grasp and pulled up Grandma's bank account information on my phone to show him. "Since you have money now, deposit my child support every month. And send over what you owe Grandma and Mom for the past few years, too. From now on, wire the money on time every month until I turn 18. He froze, staring at my screen as the light left his eyes. He slowly squeezed out a single, "Okay," and wired over $50,000 on the spot. After the transfer, he took a photo of the account information. Dad will wire it to your grandma on time every month. I replied, I've saved your number. If I run into any emergencies before I'm an adult, I'll call you. With that, I turned and walked away, and my stepdad took me home. Grandma's health was deteriorating, and keeping my dad's number was purely a backup plan. We didn't know any rich people, and we had already bothered my stepdad enough. If anything ever happened to Grandma, I could reach out to my dad. I had declined my stepdad's offer to go home with him, and he told me he would bring my little brother to visit me in the future. He left some money and drove off with my brother. So this was what Mom meant when she said having a brother would mean having someone to back me up. She was trying to tell me that if she were gone, at least there would be someone in the world to protect me. For days, Grandma kept repeating, your mom wasn't a good daughter, and she wasn't a good mother either. She was a foolish daughter and a foolish mother. If only I had known she had postpartum depression, it wouldn't have come to this. Grandma had cried herself completely dry over those few days. Thank goodness Grandma still had me, and I still had her. A month after Mom passed away, her account reverted back to the AFK state. Only this time, it would never be removed by a login ever again. Months passed like this, turning into days, and then into years. Someone posted a video on TikTok. It showed that every single day in a specific Bubble Plaza server, an avatar wearing a flashy skin and riding a cloud dragon mount would hover next to an unskinned red character standing completely still. Except, the one on the cloud dragon never let anyone else ride her mount. Maybe the video went too viral, because more and more people started crowding around to watch Mom and me. I had to use the mechanics to drag Mom up onto the clouds so we could go AFK together out of the way. But they still managed to find us. After finishing my homework, I glanced up at the screen and rubbed my eyes. A massive group of glittering avatars, all riding cloud dragon mounts, were hovering around the cloud, completely surrounding Mom and me. They had come back. They were the friends from the game who had kept me company while I waited for Mom. Mia, we're back to keep you company. Mia, I finish my finals tomorrow, and then I'm an official college student. You must be getting close too, right? Keep it up. Mia, I'm sorry for what I said when we were kids. Your mom is amazing. She bought you all the most beautiful skins. It's just a shame she never bought one for herself. But that's okay. Whenever we have time, we'll log on and keep her company. We'll surround her with our flashy skins so she can shine bright under our protection. Yes. In her next life, Mom would definitely stand in her own light and shine. I smiled as I logged off. Before bed, I always open my phone gallery to look at the photos and videos of myself from when I was little. In one video, I looked to be about 2 or 3, right around the time Mom had just come back to see me. I was holding a yogurt cup in my left hand and a spoon in my right, my upper lip completely coated in white yogurt. A gentle, laughing voice rang out from the video. Mia, call me Mom. The expression on my face in the video was cautious and testing. Mom? The gentle voice responded excitedly. Hey. Sensing the response, I smiled, my eyes curving into crescents as I yelled, Mom. Hey, hey, hey. Feeling her immediate answer, my younger self yelled louder and louder, and every time, Mom would answer with an enthusiastic, hey. In the video, I burst into giggles, and Mom laughed out loud too. I kept swiping through the videos, my vision blurring with tears. For a period of time, I secretly blamed Mom in my heart. I blamed her for leaving without saying goodbye. But watching these photos, I finally let it go. She had always been saying goodbye. I was just too young to realize it. As I spaced out, the sound of the neighbors gossiping drifted in through the window. Mia's mom passed away, and she still hasn't shed a tear. TSK, tisk. Well, it's not our place to judge someone else's business. I frowned, walked over to the window, and forcefully slammed it shut. The soundproofing in this old house really was terrible. I tilted my head back, resting it against the back of my chair, and forced my eyes wide open to stop the tears from falling. After all, back when Mom got me the cloud dragon, she had told me, Mia, when Mom leaves, as long as you don't cry or throw a tantrum, I'll get you the cloud dragon mount tonight. Only at the time, I didn't know that leaving meant this. If only I could live that day over again, I would have clung to her legs and screamed, I don't want the cloud dragon. I just want my mom. I would have thrown a massive tantrum and refused to let go. Humph. Thankfully, I managed to hold the tears back. Once the room fell completely silent, I opened a picture of Mom and whispered, "Mom, I didn't break my promise this time. You're the one who broke yours. You said you would make money and come back to live with me, and look, you never came back." I paused and sniffled. "But seeing as you had never lied to me before this, I guess I'll forgive you this once." Before I knew it, I was in high school. After classes, I always loved going with my classmates to buy boba at the shop across the street. Every time I crossed the road, out of pure habit, I would look left and right, ensuring there were absolutely no cars before walking. And I would always habitually cast a glance back at the towering buildings behind me, forever hoping to catch a glimpse of Mom secretly smiling at me from one of those countless windows.